Vegapunk is still turning the viewpoint of the One Piece world upside down, but it seems like the timer on this broadcast and the time on Egghead is quickly drawing to an end. So, let's tune in to hear what he has to say and how the world reacted in One Piece chapter 1116.
And turning back to the cover story, Yamato again is being seen getting send-off gifts. In 1115 it was from Hiyori and Otoku, and then Otsuru in 1116.
And it seems like she's pretty much just gonna go around and see every background or side character we saw during Wano. You even see the sumo that Luffy beat in the sumo battle in the background of this one. So we'll probably see people like even Ebisu Town, and somebody like Yukimaru, the transforming fox, might even show up near the shrines with like Otama when they go to present the sword for Yasui.
And jumping into the chapter, right off the bat, it really seems like Imu's grudge against Lili and the Nefertari family is basically being referenced with her picture on the wall, at the same time that the world is questioning how a war could rage on for 800 years in complete secrecy.
And specifically saying, when no one from back then is even alive today, as they show that same image of Imu, who, if he is Imu Narona, one of the original 20 sovereigns, he is one of those people that survived that entire time. But it's very interesting to show that comparison of what looks like a very aged picture of Lili, and then on the next page you see the missing posters for Vivi as well, and they just look like the exact same person.
Exactly, and that could also explain why Imu has had his eyes set on Vivi since even back during the Reverie.
He even has one particular line where they ask him, like, Lord Imu, is there anything else you want? And he says, I desire Vivi. He clearly has, whether it's grudge or a crush or something more complex than that, Imu and Lili had some history besides just the coalition they had, it seemed.
And just want to say, saw it coming last episode. This again has me wondering how exactly Queen Lili and the Nefertari family play into this great war that, as Vegapunk says, has continued on to this day for 900 years.
There's plenty about Lili's character that we don't know. You don't put somebody as like the initial D that we know of unless they're gonna have a lot more to tell.
It's your boys. And along the same lines, called another one, Stussy is planning to let Kaku go.
We might even see the two of them stay together if they both manage to get off this island and find that identity together. That could be a very interesting cover series we see come out of this.
Which really was a cool scene that I think will get skipped over by some, but I really enjoyed.
It's definitely going to kind of be overshadowed as it gets put right behind the part of the chapter where Vegapunk is explaining that all of what I was doing was meant to move society forward, but in creating the Mother Flame, I created a huge problem. And he's just fessing up to his sins, but then you see, like you said on the next page, that very like cathartic moment for Stussy as she's talking with Edison and her asking to free Kaku, just because it's like, I obviously already turned against them, but he doesn't have to face the ramifications of this.
And like Edison said, that shows that she does have a human side to her. She does have feelings and actually cares. And I mean, it almost makes Kaku appear like he's about to cry. He's about to get let out. Like, he didn't realize, I think, even until this moment, how much she actually cared about him.
And I think that release, just hearing that from Edison, was a big moment for her. You see her crying in the panel. She's decided, she's like, okay, I'm going to live for me. Beforehand, she was very kind of confused as to what that might even look like, and now she's just going to make the most out of it. So maybe we were even more correct and we are going to see a cover series out of this, but they might even just go with the Straw Hats too.
Yeah.
Jumping back to Vegapunk's announcement, he is very apologetic because you can see he's weighed what his actions and what his contributions have done in giving the Mother Flame the ability to sort of reawaken the ancient weapons with what happened to Leloucia.
And it's nice to see people around the world telling him, we don't blame you, we don't hold you accountable, but it does make sense that he himself would put a lot of the blame on his ambition and need to go after this sort of power.
It's also not surprising that that does look like it's his homeland. That's like, it's not your fault.
True.
Because that's their prized gem. But you're right. I mean, he's apologetic about the fact that he's like, I know why I did this, but I know what happened as a result, and I feel horrible.
And while everyone else is reacting to his admission of his own guilt, we see Momo actually keying in on the ancient weapons themselves and mentioning Pluton.
And that's another thing that we had mentioned in our previous reaction video. Pay attention to his words as he's observing these different parts of the announcement if he comes back up. Because Momo could have a lot more to him than he's telling us directly. His reactions are going to be really key on giving you a deeper understanding of what's actually going on, because he's not focusing on Lucia, or he's not focusing on the fact that Vegapunk took a part in this. He's saying, well, if that's the case, then Pluton is, but he's cut off.
He's
by
seeing
Kinemon.
the bigger picture. He's seeing the bigger picture, though.
But other people don't get to see that full perspective, and so a lot of them are kind of caught off guard, I guess, by Vegapunk's next comment when he explains that these weapons, the same ones that sank the world, the same one that Momo's reacting to, were meant to be kind of heirlooms passed down to the future generations. And I don't think most people can understand why, as even Shirahoshi's like, well, why would they want to keep the thing that sunk everything?
Yeah, I mean, most people just seem terrified at the thought of them still existing in the first place.
And somebody else who obviously knows a bit more to this kind of information is Sengoku, being the former fleet admiral, and you see his reaction is just as exaggerated, not focusing on Pluton, but focusing on just essentially burying his own guilt of probably knowing way too much about this in his food right now.
Yeah, and I mean, he's kind of hitting his Garp arc, where every time we see him, he's just a goofball, which is enjoyable.
It's definitely a lot more lighthearted, fun version of Sengoku, and I think you had even mentioned his little pop-in in the anime recently was great, but I think it's something that's probably weighed on his conscience for a while, and every time it's coming up now, something that, like God Valley too, he kind of just wants to push it to the side.
That's Sakazuki's demon now.
And speaking of, he's shown in the very next page just seething. But next time we saw him, he was kind of just stern. He's not stern anymore. He's letting this message get to him, and he is completely fuming with anger at this point. So it's kind of nice to see him back in his natural state, you know?
And while the Marines seem to know some, we then learn about what really shocks the world, the pirates who actually know everything about this ancient history, being the Roger Pirates. And then we get a look in to see both Crocus and Rayleigh reacting at the end of the chapter.
Crocus himself just looks stern. He's kind of pissed. It looks like he's like, you really had to tell everybody I knew? Like, you had to get everyone on my ass?
Especially because he's in a high traffic area.
And, I mean, he just doesn't want any problems. This man spends his life taking care of a whale.
Yeah, he's been trying to live just his vacation life.
And you're right, we see Rayleigh later in this chapter. He has his own reaction, but we'll get to that. But what I think is interesting to keep in mind that while everyone's shocked that pirates know this world's secrets, I want to keep in mind the way they reacted to discovering all of that information. They laughed. Everything that led to this war, everything about this conflict, ideology battle, everything about that, and their first reaction was to laugh, so...
And I mean, he was obviously drunk when he did it this time, but he laughed again.
It's just something to keep in mind about what the One Piece might be and how we're going to figure this all out. I think Oda's just got us all on our toes at this point. But at this point, we're kind of like everyone else chasing those Roger Pirates, wanting to know what they know.
And finally, back on Egghead, we also learn exactly where the Mother Flame's use on the Lucia actually stemmed from. And that was being that a piece was stolen by York and supplied to the government. And despite severing her memory synchronization with the rest of the satellites, she still got punked by my boy Stella because he had them all planned out.
And she does explain, like, he's not a good actor, so when she surprised him, she thinks she genuinely surprised him. I don't think he necessarily knew it was York. I think he just knew, oh, if somebody's willing to steal something from me like this, it's not going to be used for good reason. And, I mean, he planned accordingly, because look what's happened. But as she's trying to piece this all together, York also kind of comes to the realization that she knows where the Snail might be, and it's a good thing because the other elders, like Jupiter, are distracted trying to eat the CP0 agents that are falling out of the...
Yeah, and I mean, I guess it could be seen like, oh, maybe he's trying to save them, but I'm pretty sure we called that one too, that they're just wiping them all out. They're exterminating all the insects, whether they came there on their side or not.
It seems very unlikely that he's going to save them when, like you said, they've referred to them as insects across two of the elders now. I don't think it's unlikely the third one's just going to be getting rid of the people who have been on Egghead figuring out too much under Vegapunk's watch.
Which is another callback. Makes me question, would Kaku change sides once he sees this, that his own agents are just being treated as fodder?
I mean, he's probably wanted to switch sides anyway.
Yeah.
However, those other elders and now Jupiter are listening in because York redirects them. I'm almost positive I know where he put the broadcast Snail. It is in the Fabriostratum, and the Iron Giant is guarding it. Which just gives you a sick image of the Iron Giant's glowing eyes once more.
And I'm really glad you pointed this out. While this seems to allude that it would be within the area of the Fabriostratum, there is actually the possibility that the broadcast Snail is within the Iron Giant itself, which would allude to when we first saw Stella stuck in the Iron Giant and had to be pulled out by Luffy.
So, kind of just setting the whole motion at the start of the arc when we meet him without us even realizing what was happening. Because he said he was studying it to figure out the power core, but it would make so much sense if he was just putting the Snail inside it as well. And with the showdown between the Gorosei and the Iron Giant pretty much imminent, what do you guys think the outcome will look like? Do you think that Ethan Barron's going to be able to just slice right through the Iron Giant too? Or do you think the same thing that attacked Marie Joie is going to stand a chance?
I wouldn't be surprised if Vegapunk had yet another surprise hidden up his sleeve, whether that's some sort of self-destruct function, some sort of defense protocol, something more that will help it really defend as long as it can and draw things out, both for the Straw Hats and the broadcast, to get as much complete as possible.
You might even suggest that it could survive past this arc, but I don't know. I'm getting a good idea that the old age has ended, as even Rayleigh kind of says at the end of the chapter. It's time for the youngsters to seek out their thrill now. Right, Roger? So it seems as though it is time for the new age, the new era to begin. And I hope you guys are going to join us for that. So make sure you guys like the video if you enjoyed the reaction and the quicker recap we got today. Comment what you guys think is going to happen between the Gorosei and the Iron Giant. And subscribe so you can come back for more content like this in the future. And as always, don't forget, be crew.